A lot of the time, I think the harassment and the violence that happens isn't based on any existing policies, unless if it's maybe against gay and bisexual men, where there's the Sodomy Act that criminalizes anal sex, whether it's consensual or not. So I think that's the one policy that exists that really can be used against queer people. But in general, a lot of the harassment happens because there are actually no policies for protection. There are no policies to protect queer people in schools, in workplaces, in their homes, against the police themselves. So in terms of equality before the law, which every Zimbabwean has the right to, queer people actually do not have that. Already there is a systemic bias against LGBTI individuals. We have had our former president, Robert Mugabe, used to really speak out against gay people. He was very homophobic, and so were other politicians. And for a long time, people took that to be facts, that because Mugabe said it, then it means to be gay in Zimbabwe, it's illegal, which is really, really false, and I wish people really knew that.
If we accept homosexuality as a right, as is being argued by the Association of Sodomists and sexual perverts, what moral fiber shall our society ever have to deny organized drug addicts, or even those given to bestiality, the rights they might claim and allege they possess under the rubrics of individual freedom and human rights?
So we need alternatively friendly policies that protect everyone. And I think as much as we can say there is equality and non-discrimination, everyone has the right to health, the right to education, the right to access opportunities and employment, but in reality, we are not on an equal playing field.
I think a fraction or a component of a society's population is still unable to participate fully, to be creatively involved, in processes of society, in processes of society running, in processes of economic management. It obviously means they cannot contribute effectively or sustainably towards national development. I think I would speak for a lot of people that are either part of the LGBTIQ community or closely relate with it, to say we are a creative community, we are an artistic community, so there's so much of that which could be tapped into towards and really unleash a good economic trajectory, not just for Zimbabwe, for South Africa as well, for the rest of African countries that are targeting development.
I shall personally mobilize people to give the treatment which has always been traditionally given to what we call Ngocheni, which are gays, because it's not acceptable. I will set them alight.
To include queer women in programming from an organizational level to a national level, maybe to a regional level. I think it's important because the minute you include a queer woman, you have included the voice of someone who has been marginalized before. And if it's going to be at an organizational level, there are voices that have been denied a platform for the longest time. So now that you're giving them a platform to express what their needs are or their desires are, permanent issues are going to come up. Issues like healthcare, issues like access to spaces, issues like their expression and how it affects their day-to-day lives. I'll give you an example of the election process and how a queer woman that I know had an issue with voting because they were masculine presenting. They were denied the opportunity to vote because on their ID there was a female gender marker, but in person they presented as masculine. They were told not to stand in the queue. That is a denial of a basic human right. You go to a situation where you want to access healthcare, and healthcare doesn't include a package that is comprehensive of your queerness or the way you express yourself. That is going to be a difficult thing for you to access that health service. So I think even in planning or in creating programming that speaks to all people involved, including queer women who are presenting in any way, masculine, feminine, non-binary, that needs to be considered, and that's why it's important. If you have only the voices of the majority groups and you ignore the voices of the minority groups, then their needs are going to be left behind. These are national policies such as issues to do with gender, issues to do with land and property ownership, issues to do with marital status, all of those things. Without the voices and without the opinions and the needs of queer women in specific, they do not cater to everyone involved. So I think that's why it's important.
If you go back to the preamble of the Constitution, it talks about no discrimination of anyone based on gender or otherwise. So I feel like at some point we need to go back to the Constitution and maybe engage parliamentarians, especially the legislature part, and maybe work on the amendment of certain things. But can you make it clear that you cannot discriminate an LGBTQI person, or you cannot discriminate anyone based on sex or gender, like have a proper clarification on that part?